Yes, in July. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Calamesa's regular meeting of the City Council and successor agency to the Calamasa Redevelopment Agency. It's 6:02. We're going to call the meeting to order. Darlene, can you do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Cundiff,
Here.
Councilmember Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Manley,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cervantes,
He's on vacation. We'll excuse him for this meeting.
Mayor Molina.
I'm here, thank you. And so for the record, let it show that City Manager Colbo's here, our City Attorney Flowers here, City Clerk Gerties, Finance Director Reed, Public Works Director Shakir, City Engineer Thornton, and Sheriff Captain Northrup. Is the Chief O'Connell going to be here? Do you know? Oh, he's absent. Okay. Thank you very much. If you'll all join me in honoring our flag and say the pledge. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If this were a Alliance meeting, we'd be singing God Bless America. We do it every pledge. Okay, at this time we have communications from the public, and I have two here. Arthur Guerrero. Okay, would you step up to the podium? Speak into the mic. Thank you. Welcome.
Yes, I'm Arthur Guerrero, a 35-year resident of Calamasa. Good evening, council and public. I have a concern and kind of little sadness about the gas station that's going to be built, or I guess you had an agreement already on that over there in Calamasa in California. I'm just wondering, since we have open space beautification, I don't think it's making Calamasa beautiful. I called South Coast Air Quality, and the reason why I found out about it, because they sent me this letter and said that the toxins or whatever were up to standards. But if you have 6 or 7 other gas stations up, down the hill, what happens is the toxins go up and meet each other. And plus I have bees, I have wildlife over there, and I'm wondering why it was approved next to an RV park and I think 3 or 4 houses around it. I didn't know this was happening at the time, and I was thinking maybe the residents should had a vote on this. Was there a vote on this?
There's no, planning decisions typically like this require a conditional use permit approved by the Planning Commission. So that's what happened, and that's all that's required legally. We can't require a project like this to go to a vote of the residents.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked about that because it's a gas station. And
Can I ask where you live, sir?
I live right there on Stern Street, 1 block up.
Okay.
Yeah, around the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what the toxins are going to do to the environment. I used to work for South Coast Air Quality, and sometimes you could have an industry that doesn't emit all the smogs, but then you have another one that will buy that smog. So my concern is the environmental impact on that. And according to South Coast Air Quality, they said that it was fine, but I don't think so. That those fumes go up in the air and they drop back down like acid rain. I have fruit trees and vegetable trees. So I'm just wondering, you already told me about that the Planning Commission agreed on it, and who else agreed on this? I think this is something that next time in the future that the residents of the area or the whole city should vote on instead of just one commission. It's getting like that now, and they're not asking the people, which it affects mostly. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight and speaking.
Okay.
One more
Yes.
thing, Madam Mayor. What I would recommend is we did a land use workshop back in April of 2023. That's on our YouTube page. I think you should watch that because it talks about how not just this type of decision, but all decisions and how the process works. It's a pretty thorough presentation about, there was a whole part about CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, and those decisions. So I think I would encourage you to watch that, so you can kind of get a better idea of how the planning process works.
Okay, I'm also concerned of the future of Calimesa, because if you keep putting gas stations and things like that up, it's just going to mess up our environment here.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, Donna Johnson?
My name is Donna Johnson, and I live in the Californian, and I have two issues, and they regard the will be the Mountain View Park. It's 4th Street Park, will be Mountain View Park. Number one, I was told that the small dog run was fixed. I went back and sent the newsletter out to my people. The small dog run was fixed, and I got phone calls that you wouldn't believe, and so upset because it's not fixed. And I went over there and looked at it today. It's not fixed. And so I apologized to my people, but I'm just asking you if we could just please get that done, so that the people, we don't have a place to walk our dogs, and so they take their dogs over there, and some of them are very small, and so they need to use the small dog run. The second is, people are fighting over the park, the pavilion. Residents brought this to my attention, that when they go over there, if they want to sit in the pavilion in the shade, they can't so much of the time, because people have roped it off and said that they've reserved it, and they put up signs, and I don't know how people are supposed to find out if they actually literally reserved it, because the resident did speak with the people, but these people didn't speak English, and so I passed this around to you all to look at the signs and look at the tablecloths and to look at all that stuff, and the dog fence also, so you can look at all of that. And then the people left, and they didn't come back, and unfortunately someone cut all their stuff up and took it down. So I think that we need to address this in some manner. I don't know how. I know the signs are there, but they're not actually in the pavilion area. And so maybe people are not looking at them, and I don't know if these people are actually reserving them. I have to check on that tomorrow at City Hall and find out if these people actually even did reserve it. But I have some really angry residents, and I need to tell them something. So I'll call tomorrow and talk. Oh, my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will,
did you want to respond to
that? Yeah, I can address both of those issues. So as far as the dog park goes, no, it is not fixed yet. We only had one roll of the fencing that's needed. We need several more rolls. They were ordered shortly thereafter, and those are on order and will be installed, I believe, later this week. So that issue will be taken care of. The second issue is, and maybe Ms. Curtis can help me out with a little bit with this one, since it's probably a little bit of a history lesson, but as far as park reservations, there was a time that we did do park reservations. I think after COVID we stopped that because the park was closed. We never brought that process back. One of the issues is staffing. I think what people don't realize about our city is, because we do things so well here, in my opinion, how small our city staff is. We have 14 people on city staff citywide. That includes administration, finance, public works, everybody. Does not include the fire department. So I have 5 public works employees that have to take care of every single piece of infrastructure in this city, and so in order to do reservations at the park, especially on the weekends, we'd have to pay somebody overtime to be on call to monitor that, and the fee that we charge right now does not even cover the time that staff has to process a reservation, much less to enforce it. So to answer your question about whether they had it reserved, the answer is no. because reservations haven't been done in several years. It's not something that we haven't discounted of doing, but until our staffing levels get to an adequate level where we can do a 7-day-a-week coverage, which, you know, that is in our plan to do, it's difficult to do that. So to the extent that this is continuing to be an issue, I'd encourage you to continue, you know, when you see it, document it. We appreciate that. And, you know, if we see that continuing to be a problem, then obviously it will warrant additional staff time to address it. And we will take that staff time to address it.
Okay, because the signs are up there, and that's why the residents thought that
Yeah.
they had reserved it or should have reserved
Yeah.
it, because the signs are there
Understood.
at each end. So, okay, I'll do my best to calm everybody down.
Well, there's also an enclosed glass box where you can put what it's always empty. Maybe we could put something in there just indicating that what we want to do and give people some direction, because they're probably looking there for it, maybe not looking in front.
I
Everybody.
will use
Just
the
an
collective,
idea.
we'll use the collective brain power of our
Yeah,
staff
it's
to put together a solution.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
well, thank you for the comments, we appreciate them. Okay, I don't have any more speaker slips. Were there any written comments for any of our consent calendar items? Okay, so at this time, I'll ask council, does anyone like to pull an item before we make a motion to approve the agenda and consent? No? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items, which are 1 through 10, and the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda, consent calendar, and waiver of full readings of ordinances.
Thank you.
Second.
Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So approved. Okay, so this takes us now to Calumet Chamber of Commerce report. I don't think we have anyone here tonight, so we'll let that go. So this brings us to public hearings. This evening we have several, so bear with us. Our first item, number 11, is status of vacant positions as required by AB 2561. So at this point, I'll open public hearing for this item and give it to you, Will.
And the staff report for this will be given by Darlene Gertis.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. This public hearing is held pursuant to AB 2561 that added Section 3502.3 to the Government Code and became effective on January 1st of 2025. Government Code Section 3502.3 amends the Myers-Millis-Brown Act, which is the body of law that governs collective bargaining and labor relations at the local government level. The new law requires local government agencies to hold a public hearing before the governing body at least once per fiscal year and present the status of vacancies, recruitment and retention efforts, and identify any necessary changes to policies, procedures, and recruitment activities that may resolve obstacles in the hiring process. If the governing body will be adopting an annual budget during the fiscal year, the presentation should be made prior to the adoption of the final budget. So we're doing that this evening before you adopt the budget. If the vacancy rate in the bargaining unit is 20% or more, then additional information is regarding the vacancies must be provided by staff to the council. Currently, the city's vacancy rates do not exceed the 20%, so this additional reporting is not required for this public hearing. It's important to note that from time to time, the personnel rules and regulations are reviewed by legal and necessary amendments are made, and currently the personnel rules and regulations are in review, and any necessary amendments will come before you for approval at a later date. So that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Yes. Right. I did.
Oh, she did.
I used the gavel. I just didn't pound. I did. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Item number 11, which is status of vacant positions as required by AB 2561. It has to do with a budget time and vacancies, a city's vacancies.
Staff vacancies,
Staff
yeah.
vacancies. Like, mm-hmm. No. No. Did you want to address that?
I was just going to clarify. No, this is a legal requirement
new under state law that there be a public hearing at which the status of the current vacancies and the city staff are published, and then there's an opportunity for the public to comment. So this is the time for the public to comment on the report on the vacancies.
Yeah, we're not changing staffing levels or anything like that. There's only, I think there's what, one vacancy right now
Correct.
in the fire department.
Correct.
Did you want to come up as, yes.
No. Staff.
Staffing.
Okay, no other comments? Did I close the public hearing before we have our discussion, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Hear that? So I'm closing public comment, and I'll ask my colleagues if they have any comments on this item.
I do not.
Okay. Okay, so this is required by state law, and we're complying with that. And we've done that, and is that all we need to do, Stephen? We don't have to take a vote, we've acknowledged.
It's just a file.
Okay.
It's a
Thank
receive
you.
and file. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, another public hearing item, item number 12, adoption of resolution number 2025-26, approving a CPI increase to master fee schedule. Weed abatement, administrative fee, delinquent trash collections, processing administrative fee, construction and demolition deposit fee, and construction demolition permit, effective September 1, 2025. And so I'm opening public comment to discuss this item. Is there anyone in the,
Well, I would do the staff report first.
oh, go.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
I
That way
joined
they
the
know what
bunch
we're
of-
talking about. As some of you may recall, last year we undertook a comprehensive overhaul of the city's master fee schedule, which included a full cost of service analysis and significant staff presentations. Tonight's item is a standard annual update reflecting a 2.9% consumer price index increase for the Riverside San Bernardino region, as recommended by our adopted fee study methodology. This ensures our fees continue to keep pace with inflation and remain aligned with actual service delivery costs. In addition to the CPI adjustment, we are proposing modest increases to a few select fees that during the last year's adoption were deliberately set below full cost recovery. These fees are part of a multi-year phase-in approach to avoid abrupt financial impacts while still moving us towards full cost recovery over time. A few new items are also included. First, an update to the weed abatement administrative fee, which hasn't been adjusted since 2006 based on current staff time and processing costs. Second, an increase to the delinquent trash collections processing fee, again aligning with actual administrative effort. We're also introducing a demolition permit fee to ensure compliance with South Coast AQMD Rule 1403 and adjusting our construction and demolition waste deposits to reflect more reasonable, regionally consistent practices. Finally, we're moving the city's indirect cost recovery rate from 18.6% to 20%, a small but necessary step in our phased implementation of the cost allocation plan developed last year. Full cost recovery, by the way, is about 25%. However, as we grow as a city, we actually do expect that rate to decrease down over time, long term. So, obviously, as we grow as a city and our costs kind of scale up, our administrative costs as a percentage will go down. So we expect that to go down long term. With that, staff recommends adoption of the resolution as presented, and it will go into effect September 1st, 2025. That concludes my report, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Yes.
The end users of the services that are provided.
So that would include people that don't do their weeds, for instance, and you go in there and do them? Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
And the people that have, are late on their trash collections, there will be a fee? No, okay, so
Yes.
it's not the whole city?
No, it's just
the
for,
people
yeah.
that, okay.
Yes, exactly.
Just making that clear.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Done?
Well, the city's full of weeds, so what happens? I mean, these are different lots that are full of weeds, including one that is right next to the gas station that's going in. That's all full of weeds. But there are lots all over the place and yards all over the place in the city that are full of weeds. So we're saying that that we don't have to turn those people in, that you're going to go out and look around and see the weeds and give them notices, and if they don't take care of it, then you're going to do it yourself and charge them? Am I correct?
I can answer that. The administrative fee is to cover the costs of just that, the administration to take care of all the noticing and everything that has to go to the county for it to go on the assessor's rolls. That's what that fee is for. And yes, those in violation pay that fee.
Okay, thank you.
And I think at the last meeting, Chief Tim indicated that this is weed abatement time. And so,
Yes.
I think it's twice a year, if I recall.
Yes, hopefully it gets done real quick.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. And I'll pass it to my colleagues. Do you have any comments? This is also, this is a receiver file, but this is also something we have to do.
Nope, no questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Oh, it is, okay.
yeah.
Okay, we're just receiving, oh, you know what? Number 12. I'm sorry. I was reading still the one above it. Okay. Okay, so we'll, the recommendation is that we conduct the public hearing, which we did. And so we need a motion to adopt resolution number 2025-26, a resolution of the City Council approving a CPI increase to master fee schedule, weed abatement administrative fee, delinquent trash collections processing administrative fee, construction and demolition deposit fee, and construction demolition permit effective September 1, 2025.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0, thank you. We'll close this public hearing for this item. At this point, I'd like to convene the joint city council and successor agency to the Calamasa Redevelopment Agency meeting. Item JM1. Oh, so I guess we need a motion to approve
Yeah,
the
this is just a consent calendar, yes.
So I need a motion to approve the consent calendar, the joint CSA consent calendar.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
I can second that.
Okay, thank you, Victor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0. Okay. Item JM1, Fifth Amendment to the amended and restated agreement for legal. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? It's hot. Too much heat on the head. I apologize. All public hearings and all the gaveling you're making me do. Okay. Okay, JM2, joint meeting for adoption of the budget for fiscal year 2025-26 for the City of Calamasa and the Calamasa Successor Agency.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Tonight's item marks the culmination of a thorough and collaborative budget process. Over the past several months, we've held two workshops on the budget, worked closely with the Finance Committee, and refined this document to align with council priorities and the needs of our growing community. The proposed budget reflects the city's ongoing commitment to responsible fiscal management, strategic investment, and long-term planning. So at this time, I will hand it over to our Finance Director, Celeste Reed, to walk us through the details of the proposed budget. A lot of this will be things that you've already seen. We're just doing a condensed version of the previous presentations.
And so it'd be fair to say that there have been no changes since.
There was the one recommended change, and we'll go through that as Celeste goes through. There is a brief PowerPoint on the budget, but there is going to be one change that we'll highlight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Celeste.
Good evening.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Thank you so much for being here this evening, and I'm looking forward to presenting to you the fiscal year 25-26 operating capital budget. As City Manager mentioned, this is a very brief presentation. I've tallied in my head, I believe, over 4.5 hours in discussion and in-depth analysis. So for the benefit of members of the public who are hearing this the first time, while you're getting a rather condensed version this evening, you will be able to go onto the city's website through YouTube to listen to and download through YouTube the entirety of the workshop meetings if you're so inclined. If I could have there we go. So the first item and first slide that we have here is a reflection of the general fund summary. And for the ongoing column, this is what we refer to as our structural surplus. This indicates that our ongoing revenues support our ongoing expenditures. We have an operating surplus of approximately $128,000. We made some variations and adjustments to that. There's a small allocation that we budgeted for the next 3 years for our POP officer to get allocated to a supplemental law enforcement fund, and the City Council historically many years ago has made the determination to fund ADA improvements of about $5,000 every year. So that's part of it. So our net structural surplus is closer to $83,000. So it still shows that we have a structural surplus. The ongoing revenue or one-time expenditures are just that. They're one-time in nature, and I'll share with you some details of what those are comprised of. We do have some transfers out of approximately $670,000. The largest share of that, of about $450,000, relates to transfers for vehicle improvements. We've made strategically, the City Council adopted a new reserve policy back in October of 24, and part of that is pre-funding the needs for the city. We have a vehicle fleet is rather significant, so we are being fiscally responsible and setting money aside every year. So as vehicles need to be replaced in a 5 to 10 year window, we do have some accumulated funds for that going forward. At the conclusion of the year, now these are just projected and they're certainly estimated, but we expect to have about $6.4 million in a reserve fund balance as projected as of June 30th, 2026. But these are projections, and I always like to say that a budget is not a crystal ball. It's a framework by which you make decisions and look at and make reasonable conclusions. So that's about what we're projecting now with the information we have now as projected. So we're going to focus on revenues in our next slide. And I think you all know and understand that the most significant revenues that the City of Calimesa has is in relation to our property taxes. And we're showing this trend line going back for several years. There's really some interesting patterns to note in the trend line. And I'd like to reference the fiscal year 21. This is a great year for people to touch base with. It's as we were coming out of the pandemic. And so we had $4.4 million in collective property tax revenues. There were many decisions that laid bare to the increases that you can see. And what I'd like to point out is the scope and level of increases from year to year, which are interesting. So you went from $4.4 million with a pretty dramatic increase by $600,000 to the following year. We had another $800,000 increase a subsequent year. You're all residents, long-term residents of Calimesa, and I think you're already going through your mind, oh, this is when we had our growth and development. But then I'd also like to bring to your attention that we also know as long-term residents and members of the community that growth has somewhat slowed down, right? We don't see big, 600 houses being built here in Calimesa. So the changes you see from year to year are getting smaller, and they're increasing closer to 2 to 4% on the average, which is where normal property tax revenues are increased. I'm going to be showing a slide later on of the jump from 4.4 million to the projected 6.5 million, and how those revenues are being expended and how they've been built into the budget. But this is just a trend, somewhat with a theme that we're not seeing the scale and scope of revenue projections that we've seen in the past. Next, you'll see a very similar pattern with our sales tax trend. We had a very nice year in fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23. this is as the Calamasa Marketplace has developed, and we've had a lot of growth there. We had Stater Brothers open there and wonderful restaurants and activity. And again, you can see somewhat of a leveling out of our revenues, again, because we haven't had a lot of growth or changes within the past few years. And the changes we did have going back into fiscal year 21, 22, 23 were decisions that were based prior to those years. You know, the development path is not linear or quick, so sometimes even when development is decided upon, it can take, you know, anywhere from 1 year to several years before you see an impact financially. So we are definitely in a leveling out on our revenue trend in sales tax and property tax. We're going to take a brief look here at our general fund expenditures, and as City Manager Colbo mentioned, the city general fund expenditures are a reflection of the decisions and the funding sources that we are being used to provide services to the city of Calamasa. So I'd like to mention that in the collective, I think if you ask every city member, that police and fire are a priority, and they sure are, to the tune of 62% of our total budget. It's a very significant piece of our budget. The police budget has an additional $200,000 again in the supplemental insurance or supplemental fund. So police total expenditures average about $3.1 million as projected for the budget. And then the next closest department is our public works, around $840,000. So the significant portion of our budget goes to police and fire. We have a breakdown here of all the different expenditures and the respective amounts for that. So as I mentioned, we do have some one-time general fund expenditures that have been decided upon with the City Council, and as recommended by the staff. We have strategic planning and economic development, Parks and Trail Study, which was decided at our operating workshop meeting. We had $75,000 set aside, but $100,000 was selected just to provide a little bit of additional cover for, you know, some additional costs. Attorney's fees, information technology. We've done some assessment and analysis. Your staff is very, very frugal here. And we did some analysis on this, and it was concluded and recommended by our deputy city manager that it's more frugal for the city to actually purchase a plotter scanner rather than lease. So we're always looking at ways to save, so we're going to purchase that as a one-time. We have some studies that are being recommended. There's a possibility the AB 98 study may not be required, which would be nice. We'd have some savings there, but we can't count on that. It's right in legislature at this time. And then we have a 35-year anniversary celebration that we're going to be acknowledging for the city with an estimated about $10,000. So overall, we have one-time expenditures of about $450,000. So speaking of expenditures, and as I mentioned with respect to the law enforcement, we have our contract with Riverside County Sheriff's Department. And this slide shows a reflection of the past several years of contract changes. You can see we have quite a variation, and I think it's important to note that the variation is due in part to and aligns with employee MOU agreements and negotiations. And so if you average out all of these years of the ups and the downs, there's an average of about a 5.3% increase in the collective. But nonetheless, we are seeing very significant spikes in fiscal year 2026 and 27 and in our current year. I want to mention specifically with respect to these negotiated rates, it was decided upon by the County of Riverside, and 86% of these increases go directly to salary and benefits of our law enforcement officers. And then there's some ISF funds and some particulars that aren't terribly material, but 86% of these increases go directly towards the salary and benefits of our law enforcement officers. For the other slides, we have not necessarily projected out to fiscal year 27, but we thought it was important for you to see and understand this trend, because I know you're probably already thinking in your mind, we have a leveling out and a flattening out of our revenues, and our expenditures are going up at fairly significant rates with one of our more significant budget items. In the collective of these 3 years, the total is about 24% increase over 3 years. So we're keeping an eye on that, we're aware of it, and we want to make sure that the council and the community are aware of the changes that are coming. So we also have increases in insurance. The city, much like our homes and what we've seen and we've all experienced, is there's many increases in insurance trends. And you can see since fiscal year 21, which is another touch point that we've talked about earlier in this presentation, we have more than doubled our insurance. It's just really, really dramatic. Most of the insurance is on the liability side. And I believe you can probably, everyone can conclude, we understand what this is about. It's fire, it's liability, we're all seeing it. But again, it's another significant element of which the city of Calimesa can't control. We cannot dictate to insurance companies what they charge us. It's a fact of life. So again, we're being smart, we're preparing for this and understanding where we're at. I did want to mention that our liability insurance increases are far more dramatic than our workers' compensation increases. So what we can control with respect to workplace and safety, we're doing well. So this slide is a reflection of going back to that year where we saw the 4.4 million, and we now have 6.5 million of property tax increases and sales tax increases. And I shared this with the council. They've heard me say this before, but for the benefit of the public who are hearing this the first time, in the collective, both Will and I, we had the sense of we wanted to really sketch out, well, we've had, while the revenues are leveling out, these are really significant revenue increases. And I put some pen to paper to say, where did the money go? So as I had emphasized and shared before, you can see that the police has had an increase of $975,000. We've increased our fire budget by approximately 1.3 million. And so and then we had insurance increases. So 90% of our 2.6 million increases in revenues have gone to police, fire, and insurance. So police and fire, of course, being a very strong priority for the city council and your predecessors. So that is where the dollars have gone. And it was a little shocking to see what was left over and how we've managed funds otherwise. There was increase was 273,000. So we've had some staffing increases, but that's not a lot over 5 years. So the city has done really well. We've worked really hard to be, and the council has worked very hard to be fiscally responsible. And so we wanted the community to truly understand when they see these increases, to understand the patterns and where the funds go.
I just wanted to add on that slide real quickly.
Sure.
The police and fire, I just want to emphasize that that's not just cost increases for the same services. So, for example, we did add the POP officer within that time frame. So that enhanced our service to the community. And fire, we also added personnel as well and brought on ALS. So we went to an advanced life support program with paramedics. So it's not just cost increases that were there, but it was also enhancements to services that we invested in.
Thank you, Will. That's an excellent point. So moving on to our capital improvement plan. This is a very brief summary of a very involved document. So, but in just providing a summary for you all, we just wanted to share, when you look at the budget document, you can see there's a 5-year planning horizon for our CIP. Again, always looking out, always strategizing, always planning. However, the appropriations that are being approved are just for the fiscal year 25-26. So while we do our best to project out, it is incumbent on the city council every year to approve the next fiscal year's allocated amounts. I've summarized here some major projects of which you're familiar that have already been approved and are being recommended for approval. An ADA sidewalk for the library, a steel structure for our public works yard. This helps protect our existing equipment that we have from the elements. So we have some irrigation upgrades. We're going to improve and work on our IT audio and visual and the chairs in the senior center.
In other words, these mics that keep crackling.
Hey, we do what we can with what we have. we do our best here. We have a Calamasa Creek project, a drainage plan, and computers and servers and the software conversion consultant for the new accounting software. So future considerations, I've already made reference to this in some of our previous slides, but one of the things we wanted to mention with respect to reserves is reserves aren't that the reserves that are available to the city council in the event of emergency aren't only committed to the general fund. We do have these other funds for which, if we was ever needed, we could also access these funds because they've been primarily funded through the general fund. So that would be our capital projects fund, our vehicle replacement fund. If there was an emergency or something happened, that's all pre-funding from the general fund. So the city council could say, okay, we need to pull back. It was great and all fine and well. We were planning and strategizing, but we need this money now for XYZ version, you know, whatever it may be. Information technology and so forth. So in the collective, we have about 7.4 million with these additional funds that would be accessible for decision making. They are set aside and they're reserved, but the city council would have additional funding available outside of the strict general fund if funds were needed. So looking ahead, we've mentioned fiscal year 27 quite a bit. It seems unusual that we're talking just about fiscal year 26, but we are looking at fiscal year 27 and on. And there's some really significant expenditures that are coming, again, that are outside of the city's control and discretion. So we have our housing element, that's cycle, that is going to be due. This is required now every 6 years. Beginning in fiscal year 27, it will be the time frame to appropriate and set funds aside for the next one. We have to fully replace all of our protective gear for our fire team, and that's about a $250,000 expenditure. And in fiscal year 30, it's anticipated that would be an appropriate time frame to go through another general plan update. Will, when was the last general plan update that was done, please?
2014.
2014. So imagine in 2030 it would be an appropriate time to take a look at that again. So in the collective, while we are really happy and pleased with the reserves that we have, and it's a strength for the city of Calamasa, we always want to keep you apprised and informed of future expenditures that we know are going to be happening as you do some mental math, what is required. Looking again ahead to fiscal year 27 and beyond, another item of consideration is we've already done projections for our staffing, so an increase for salaries of approximately 5%. These are merit increases and increases that are built into staffing salaries from steps A, B, C, and D, and we're expecting that to cost approximately $176,000 at this time. I think we have insurance increase of approximately $50,000. That's at 10%. But given the increases that we've had over 100%, we keep saying to ourselves, at some point this has to slow down. We're hoping it would only be $50,000, but that's what we pinned for fiscal year 27. So we're hoping to only have insurance increases of approximately $50,000. And again, as you're doing mental math in your mind, knowing how our revenues are kind of flattening out, and we ended up with a projected net surplus of about $83,000. I think we're beginning to paint a story for you here of ongoing revenues and ongoing expenditures. We know software has increased subscription costs. We're projecting that to be about $25,000. And we wanted to emphasize the police increases that we're working on. So fiscal year 27, which you've already seen, we have a projection of a 7% increase. And what we've done, and I think as long as, you know, with Will and I, when we're doing our projections, I think Calamasa would probably be wise and it would be responsible planning to plan for 4 to 5% increases for police, because you saw the trend. It can be rather deceptive because one year it might be as low as 1.63%, but then the next year it can be, you know, 7%. So I think Calamasa, knowing how we are and how the city council has decided to act accordingly, if we strategize and plan on the average about a 5% increase. We even did some analysis going back to, I think, the year 2005, 2006, and in the collective, the police increases, Sheriff's Department increases average about 5% a year. Some years are higher, some years are lower. So we're building that into our assumptions for future years, that on the average it's going to be about 5% increase. And I'm going to turn it back over to Will for any discussion or follow-up items that he'd like to mention.
Thank you, Celeste. So as you've heard, the fiscal year 25-26 budget is balanced and structurally sound. And I think that's an achievement that we can all be proud of, especially in a time when many cities are facing deficits. However, it's important to note that we are not without future challenges, as we've heard. We're already, as Celeste pointed out, we're already projecting significant cost increases in coming years, with sheriff's contract rates, insurance, software subscriptions, personnel costs. And so these pressures require us to remain disciplined and forward thinking. And just as important, they underscore that the decisions this council makes regarding future development, particularly as we consider how and when we grow, will directly shape our ability to fund city priorities, maintain services, and invest in infrastructure. So tonight's budget puts us on solid footing going into fiscal year 26, but our long-term stability depends on thoughtful planning and a clear understanding of how future growth aligns with our fiscal capacity. So with that, that concludes our presentation, and both Celeste and I are available for questions.
Thank you both. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this item? Okay, I have to agree, that was a really brief overview of what we've spent hours on, and just for people who are looking in, there's extensive information, and you can see the previous meetings where all the time that we have spent on the budget. We didn't have many people come, and they're open to public meetings, but hopefully if you're listening tonight, if you have any questions, just look back at our other hearings. But thank you for your presentation. So I'll open it up to my colleagues, if you have any comments.
I do.
Okay.
It was a great presentation. Thank you. I just wanted to follow up with where did the money go to? Just to kind of just get our community to know, to kind of break it down a little bit more within the 2021 through 2026.
Sure. You want to go back to the slide?
Yes. So I did my math on the differences between 975. So I divided that by 5. Correct me if I'm wrong if I did my calculations correct. So within those 5 years, there is a difference of an increase of $195,000. And then for the fire, I calculated a difference of $255,000 of 28 with 20 cents within those 5 years. And then for the fire portion insurance, within those 5 years, there was a total of $24,000 difference within those 5 years. That's correct, right?
So I apologize. I live and breathe by my calculator.
Yeah, I did
So
it
I'm
here.
going to trust your calculations, but I do want to emphasize and share that it was not an equitable distribution each year. If you do take those increases, that is a reasonable conclusion to come to, that it would be an average of that. However, as City Manager Colbo did mention, of that $975,000, we brought in the POP officer, and that was a very dramatic increase. And I think it was fiscal year 21 to 22, and it was about $400,000. So we brought in the POP officer, so $400,000 of that happened in 1 year, and then in subsequent years, so doing the math, you would remove $400,000, and you can do the average. Also, with respect to computing math, there was a very significant increase in our police budget for from just this year. We had originally, for fiscal year 25, there was an original projection of an increase for the Sheriff's Department of 4.5 for fiscal year 25. However, we were informed after contract negotiations were done that the actual increase was going to be 7.3%. So depending on how you look at it, yes, I'm sure you're correct that over the average, that's what it is. But it has not been a perfect distribution.
Yeah, it hasn't been linear.
Thank you.
And then on the fire side, we did within those time frame too, we did add another seat on the engine, which is 3 FTEs. So you have 3 shifts you have to cover, so you have to add 3 FTEs for every seat you add. And so there was a cost for that. And then we also have some ongoing costs related to the advanced life support program, the paramedic program that was instituted as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty good inside information, because I'm creating my chart as we speak in my head, and this just kind of lets us know that the potential of another average of an increase will be a total of those numbers that I just mentioned for the 2027 year.
Well, so I don't know about that. I don't know that I would jump to that conclusion necessarily. I think it's always reasonable to conclude that there's going to be increases. However, I do want to emphasize with respect to police, I mean, I believe the POP officer at the time, I think it's $400,000. That's close to $500,000. So unless the city were intending to add an additional POP officer, I don't know that we can necessarily expect the same growth, but I think we can certainly expect what's been projected out, which was for fiscal year 27 to have the 7%, and then the gradation of 4.55 to 5.5, because by then, by those years out, there are going to be more contract negotiations, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say, they're probably not going to be 2% increases. I don't know. Does that help? Does that answer your question and provide clarity?
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
It's
great.
so the community can know where, because like you mentioned, the majority of the budget is going towards those two areas, the police and the fire.
Yes, 62% of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is one of the most important things that we do here is being good stewards of taxpayers' dollars. So paying attention to what we're doing now, I think, is one of the most important things as a member of our community to see what's going on with the money. I just want to thank our staff and the council and past councils as well that allowed us to stay on track. So I think everything's looking good. But as Will mentioned, it's going to be continued good decisions in the future to keep us on this same track and restrained decision making, so that we can keep this balanced budget. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to echo what John and Edgar said, it's very important to us to be able to trust the work, to see what you're doing, and to understand where this monies are going. And to Edgar's point, a lot of people can look at that number and say, where did $4 million go? Like if we were at home and our budget was, $2,000 after we paid all our bills, and you're living on that money, and gas goes up, food goes up, so now you don't have $2,000.
Yeah.
Now you're down to like $1,500 or whatever. And that's essentially what's happening here with this. But you explained it in a really meticulous way, great way. You and Will and the whole team did a great job on this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
I agree, and I think from all the budget meetings that we've had, you both are very good forecasters, and you've kind of taken a look at it, and the fact that you came up with like, where did the money go, you really wanted to know, and you were very transparent and put it out there for us, because we're all doing the math. That's our job. And you've been able to explain it very well, but I think we've been on point with the choices that we've made, and we're not making any risky decisions, and we're really seriously looking ahead, because 2027 is going to be a difficult year to catch up with all the year's increases this year and in this next fiscal year. So thank you for all the work you've done, and again, for anybody who's looking in, if you want more information, there's our city manager's podcast. There are the previous meetings that you can look into to get the details and ask for copies of the material that we put out, because we've been very transparent, and so I applaud the work that your staff has done. Thank you very much. So at this point, Steve, can we approve all three at one motion, or do you need to have them independently?
You may approve them all by single vote. I would recommend we just read off the title of each one.
Okay, so if there are no other comments, and if my colleagues have no other comments, I'd look to a motion to approve items 1, 2, and 3 by reading them all out.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2025-24, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Calimesa, California, establishing the fiscal year 2025 to 2026 appropriation limit. Second, adopt resolution number 2025-25, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Calimesa, adopting the proposed fiscal year 2025 to 26 general fund operating budget, special revenue fund budget, capital improvement programs, and amending the fiscal year 2024-25 approved budget as specified. And number 3, that the successor agency adopt CSA resolution number 2025-01, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the successor agency to the Calamasa Redevelopment Agency, adopting the proposed Calamasa successor agency budget for fiscal year 2025-2026.
Good reading. Thank you so much. I'll take a second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's 4-0. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the good work and the information for our community. So at this point, I'll adjourn the successor agency to the Calamasa Redevelopment Agency and reconvene City Council. That takes us to Mayor and Council Member reporting of county and regional meetings and conferences. Eric, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I did attend some regional meetings. The first one that I'll make mention of, I'm not going to go into great detail because City Manager Colbo was there and has that covered with his material that he's going to cover. But that was on the 4th, that ad hoc that Mayor Pro Tem and I were assigned to. The second was going to be the San Gregorio Pass T-Now Coalition. As we don't have transportation currently in our city, there was really not a lot for us to contribute. It was good information presented by Banning and Beaumont and the Sunline and the other agencies that were there, but it was just a good opportunity for me to share with them our food and music festival that we're going to be doing, so they were all excited to hear that. But it was a good meeting. Thirdly, on the 12th, this last Thursday, I was fortunate enough to participate with, you were there as well, the WRCOG dinner at the Pechanga Resort, and Admiral McRaven spoke. Will was there as well, and some of the city staff, Mike was there, and we had a great time at that event, but I think the lessons from his speech, Admiral McRaven's speech, was on point, and I think all of us could benefit from the information and the insight that man has. So, and
Did you want to expand on what his background was?
no, I'm going to leave that as a cliffhanger for everyone to look up. And if you haven't heard of Admiral McRaven, look him up. The guy's a legend. And yeah, so just look him up and buy one of his books. You won't be unhappy with that. And lastly, the 13th, Friday, as I'm appointed to the Governance, Transparency, and Labor Relations Committee for Cal Cities. This was actually a very important meeting for a couple of different reasons. Previously, we had given direction to staff to come up with policy for AI. That was a big deal in this meeting. They had a bunch of educators from different parts of the country speak on this. There was some handouts that I forwarded off to Will to look at that may be helpful or applicable for our situation. But a lot is being talked about on AI and as it pertains to the use within government. And so it's coming whether we want it or not. So we, I think, are doing the right thing by giving them direction to come up with policy on that. The second thing was the legislative agenda, Senate Bill 707, authored by Durazo. And this had to do with Brown Act and revisions and more regulations, quite frankly, to the Brown Act and how we are able to conduct meetings, whether we can be remote and have participation in that meeting, and if we are, do we have to open it up to the public forum for the person that's remote? I mean, there was a whole lot of things that just didn't make a lot of sense, and there was approximately 40 of us on this committee, this policy committee, and we unanimously decided to vote against it. So previously, the policy of Cal Cities was to stay somewhat, not neutral, but just they didn't really care one way or the other. They weren't pushing it or fighting it. But after going through all of these different rules and guidelines, and it was going to cost us money. It's going to cost cities money to implement the kind of things that they wanted us to do, and none of us were in favor of it. So I will break that down or get the notes from them. When I do, I will pass that on to you guys so everyone's got that. But just to let you know, that doesn't mean the bill is not going to pass. It just means that our stance for Cal Cities is not to support it. So, and that concludes my reporting.
Thank you so much. John?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did not attend any regional meetings, and that will conclude my report.
Thank you. Edgar?
I did not attend any meetings as well, and that will conclude my report as well.
Well, I did. I did a lot this month. But I'll be as brief as possible. And so normally when we attend these county meetings, they now are in the habit of providing us summaries of the actions taken, and that's very time saving for when we do our council reporting. And so as we get them, we provide them to the staff, and we get copies to each of us, and so they're available to the public as well. So if you ever have any questions about it, that's a way to get information. On June 4th, I attended as an RCTC commissioner. They had the 7191 RCTC Bridge Tour in Corona. If you're familiar with that area, it's an area that's been, for the last 3 decades, that has been under construction, where you actually had to get off the freeway and get back on in that area. And this is, I believe, June 30th, it's opening to the public. We were able to go onto the ramp and see the view of the completion of this. It's fantastic. It's for the people that live out there. It's going to really help traffic quite a bit. So you'll be hearing more about that, especially if you go out that way. On the 4th, I also attended an RTA Budget and Finance meeting where they approved their vehicle miles traveled mitigation program and agreed to enter into a credit program with WRCOG. On the 5th, attended SCAG Transportation Committee in Los Angeles, and this is mostly receive and file informational updates, and that will be provided when I receive them myself. I was lucky to be invited to go on a Sacramento water tour. This is at the hosting by San Bernardino Municipal Water District. There were about 36 of us that they hosted. That included airfare and hotel and meals to go up to Northern California with about 4 different water agencies also being board members and what have you, staff persons being in this group of 36. We actually went up to Oroville, where it all starts, and it was a very good education on how water gets from Northern California to Southern California. It was also a good thing to witness all the conveyance projects, which is where they divert water. The whole purpose of water agencies today is to, in rainy years, save the water for dry years when we need to draw from the aquifer. So it was a great education on that, especially up north where the Sacramento River and the Delta. I always thought the Delta was a river. It's not a river. It's a rivulet, and so it's a good education there. But the Pacific Ocean in San Francisco actually comes with the tide, comes in inland, mixes with the fresh water, and that really destroys crops. And so they're working on conveyance projects. The Delta Conveyance Project is just that, to divert the water there. So that'll help us down here when it comes time to purchase water. But a great education. I encourage all of you to go to broaden your education on water, because for the, if someone asks me how do things happen, I can now educationally say this is how it works. And so it was a great education. And so I brought, you should be getting, you got the information. It's good reading. Thank you. Also attended a League of California Cities Executive Committee meeting, and this is just routine bill updates from Sacramento and staff. Our city free lunch program started on the 10th. We had over 60 kids come for lunch. Our lunch time is 10:30, so it's not that hot yet, but a lot of kids came to eat lunch. That tells you that the program is just what it is, needed for kids who maybe don't have food otherwise, and it gives them some opportunity to come to the park, the 4th Street Park, which will be Mountain View Park once we finish the upgrades. But the participation was wonderful. So I talked to parents and gave updates on Calamasa as well. Then RCTC Commission was held. It was a 3-hour meeting. This is the commission that determines all the infrastructure and projects for transportation, and it was a 3-hour meeting. I'm not going to bore you all with all the details on that. As we get the summary, I will be providing that all to you. Again, went to the WRCOG General Assembly in Pechanga. I think of you always, because that was your thing, Wendy. Thank you. I missed you there. And also attended a Zoom policy committee meeting like Eric did. Mine is transportation, communication, and public works, and it was all information items, no action items on for things like homeless encampments, local streets and roads program, legislative and regulatory updates. And when I get that summary, I'll provide it to all of us. And then happily and gladly on June 14th, which was Flag Day here in the city. Our Lions Club put up flags all over the city in Calamasa and Yucaipa. So you'll be seeing the flags out again on this Thursday on Juneteenth and then on July 4th. And that concludes my activity. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But that information I'll bring back to the council and staff. And so with that, I'll turn it over to our city manager for his comments and reports. And then this evening, we will be going into closed session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councilmember Cundiff had pointed out, we attended a 2x2x2 animal control ad hoc committee. So that's Calamasa is represented by Mayor Pro Tem Cervantes and Councilmember Cundiff. We met on June 4th with representatives from Beaumont, Banning, Riverside County, and the Morongo Band of Mission Indians to discuss regional sheltering options. So the city of Calamasa currently contracts with Riverside County, but we expressed interest in joining this committee to look at that as another option to join with our regional neighbors and do something more locally. Beaumont's current shelter is very limited. They only have about a half dozen kennels. Banning has a larger but inactive facility with about 30 kennels that could be reactivated for about $300,000 to $500,000 in repairs. County staff are expected to inspect the site soon, so they got that based on a building inspector from the city of Banning that did that analysis. But I think the county has agreed to provide further analysis on that from their expertise. Riverside County, which is operating at at sometimes as high as 200% capacity, indicated they cannot provide additional staffing support at this time, but will help facilitate a presentation from the Southwest County JPA. So Southwest County, Lake Elsinore, Temecula, Murrieta area, Wildomar, they formed a JPA for animal control services, and they contract with a outfit called Animal Friends of the Valleys. So we're hoping that they'll come to our next meeting to present their structure to us. The Morongo tribe expressed interest in helping fund a new facility pending a needs assessment. And in the interim, the Banning site may serve as a short-term solution for the area, and Morongo has also expressed that they can fund the necessary repairs to that facility. Additionally, additional discussions included spay and neuter kid clinic coordination, foster programs, and regional licensing efforts. So we're expected to meet again in July, and staff is currently, the staff among the various agencies are currently coordinating a meeting. We're hoping to meet before the end of the month, so to discuss some of the action items that we had from the first meeting. So that concludes my report on that. Councilmember Cundiff had also mentioned the AI policy. Our computer use policy is overdue for an update, so our plan is to incorporate an AI policy into that. And our target right now is to bring that back to your next council meeting on July 21st. Popsicles at the Park is this Thursday, June 19th at 11 a.m. at 4th Street Park, so hope everyone can attend that. And lastly, I've plugged the Calamasa Insider podcast on here before, but I just did the 50th episode and posted on Friday, and it features a comprehensive history of Calamasa. So I was pretty proud of that podcast, and it's a video podcast now. And I actually went out to like Singleton Canyon, Kill Canyon area, and recorded it out there. I set up a table and actually recorded it with the RCA land behind me. So it was pretty neat. But a lot of good information, I think, on that. I think that residents will be surprised by some of the things that from our history. So hope everyone can check that out. And that's my report. Thank you.
I appreciate all the time you spend on that. That's really a lot of information for our community. We have people that come to our meetings and say they didn't know about certain things, and this is one way to find out. So thank you for all that you do, and the staff. One thing I just wanted to make a comment on is our council is very proactive with other cities around us. There's a lot of collaboration, and it shows. We are here on the pass. The freeway is. Connects all of the past cities, and we have great relationships with the cities of Banning and Beaumont, and even though Yucaipa is in San Bernardino County, we have collaboration there. So I think it's a good thing. It's good for our residents. There's to make it as seamless as possible, the services that we do and the things that we look at. So you should be comfortable that we're doing that and we're working well together. So I thank you all for that. I thank the staff for all the work that they do, because they wear many hats, and thank you for all the work that you do. And so at this point, our attorney will make a comment about our closed session items. And just to remind everyone that July 7th council meeting is being canceled. Our next meeting will be July 21st at 6 o'clock.
City Council will now recess into closed session to discuss two items, both listed on the agenda, both real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The first property is 1055 Calamasa Boulevard in the city of Calamasa. City negotiators are City Manager Will Cobal. The negotiating party is Bank of America. Under negotiation, the price and terms of acquisition of the property. The second item is several APNs on Singleton Road as listed in the agenda. Again, city negotiator is City Manager Will Cobal. The other negotiating parties are Phelps Smith Investments. Under negotiation are the price and terms for acquisition of the property.
Thank you so much. And so we'll call adjournment at 7:14, but I'd like to also, I'd just like to say it's nice to see our former Councilwoman Wendy Hewitt in the audience. For those of you who don't know her, thank you. Okay, thank you all tonight. Be careful.